Welcome along to the review of the 3 Ds. So to begin as we normally do, we'll take refuge together, we'll generate a mind of enlightenment, and then we'll engage in the teachings themselves. Okay, so let's take refuge together. So this requires us all to be comfortable in our seats and relaxed. So please just adjust your body. Ideally, your spine is straight, your shoulders are relaxed. Your hands and feet are placed in positions where you feel quite at ease. And your body is breathing itself. And while you feel the body breathe itself, you can relax into awareness. And imagine the nature of the ground beneath you is made of a starry sapphire light. And the space above you is filled with rainbows and offerings. Directly in front of you, in space, there is a throne, and on that throne are cushions of lotus, sun, and moon. And sitting on the moon cushion is Buddha Shakyamuni. And he is surrounded by an assembly of other enlightened beings. These include the bodhisattvas and the deities and the protectors and so forth. Meanwhile, you're sitting in your seat and you are surrounded by all sentient beings. So imagine your mother beside you on the left, your father beside you on the right, friends and family behind you, difficult people in front of us, being surrounded by strangers. Recollect that these friends, strangers, and difficult people have no intrinsic nature, just like us. So we recollect how fortunate we are to be alive still, and to have the leisure and opportunity to attain one of our spiritual goals. We need to act quickly though, because things are not quite right. In fact, things are always changing, and the world does not exist as it appears to. Nevertheless, we have a spiritual friend who is leading us in the safe direction of the 3 rare sublime ones. These being the Buddha, his teachings called the Dharma, and the spiritual community called the Sangha. We're going to lead all sentient beings into the safe direction of these 3 rare sublime ones. And to make our offering of practice as purely as possible, imagine yourself to be as clear as a deity, beholding a Vajra and bell, and your sitting posture is within a sphere of great enjoyment. And from within the sphere of great enjoyment, you say, I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. In response to this wish of ours, imagine that from the heart of each enlightened being, lights and nectar stream down, and these dissolve into yourself and all the living beings surrounding you. And these lights and nectars, they purify the negative karma and obstructions. They increase our health and lifespan, our virtues and Dharma realizations. We're cleansed by wisdom and fortified with compassionate love. Recollect the 4 immeasurable thoughts of love, compassion, joy, and equanimity, and decide to develop these yourself and to establish all beings into those 4 states. So to affirm this wish of ours, join me in saying, may all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings never be separated from the happiness that is without suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment to friends and hatred for enemies. Again, in response to this wish of ours, from the heart of each enlightened being, lights of nectar stream down, and these dissolve into yourself and all living beings. And our negative karmas and obstructions are purified. Our health and lifespan, along with our virtues and realizations, are increased. Cleansed with wisdom, fortified with compassionate love. The next time you exhale, just relax completely. And from that relaxed state of awareness, invite the field for accumulated merit, which appear. And before them, we say, reverently I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind. I present clouds of every type of offering, actual and imagined. I declare all my negative actions accumulated since the beginning of time, and rejoice in the merit of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until the end of cyclic existence and turn the wheel of Dharma for living beings. I dedicate my own and others' merits to the great enlightenment. So to prevent ourselves from polluting the merit that we've created and gathered, we recollect emptiness and transform everything. So our body, speech, and mind, all of our enjoyments, every merit we've created, all are utterly transformed, reappearing as a pure lamb. So we're going to make this offering to the Buddha and the spiritual community. So we say, this ground, anointed with perfumes, filled with flowers, adorned Mount Mary, 4 continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha field of offering. May all living beings enjoy this pure land. We release the offering and the Buddha accepts it and he smiles at us with delight, and we meet his gaze. Looking up into the eyes of the Buddha, recollect renunciation, the wish to abandon suffering and its causes. Bodhicitta, the wish that all our practices lead us to enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. And the correct view. Our all phenomena exist dependently. They are empty of any intrinsic nature. So we're recollecting these 3 principal aspects of the path. We aspire to become fully awakened ourselves. So induced by our wishes and prayers, there emerges from Shakyamuni Buddha a second figure who absorbs into you. And now your form clearly becomes a cloud of the Guru Buddha. Radiating from a home symbol at your heart, light rays strike all sentient beings surrounding you, and they're all placed in the state of Guru Buddha. Each of us, enlightened, have at the heart a moon disk. Upon those a white syllable, like the Yahum. It's encircled by the mantra of Shakyamuni Buddha, which we begin to recite. And so we say, Kayata Muni Mahamuni So. Kayata Mahamuni So. Kayata Mahamuni So. I think the two purposes are achieved. And make a wish that through this virtue, may you quickly achieve the state of the Guru Buddha and place all sentient beings without exception with that very same state. So the next time you exhale, just gently allow your eyes to flutter open and just move your body in whichever way you'd like to. You feel once again quite present. So I'll just give you a really brief overview here, and then we'll just go through in a more generalized way. So we began by looking at the causes for refuge. And you know that refuge depends upon two causes, but if you're a Mahayana practitioner, three. So the first cause is alarm at the danger of cyclic existence and the fear that you might take terrible rebirth. The second cause is having confidence in the ability of the three rare sublimes, the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, to guide you away from these dangers. And if you're taking Mahayana refuge, then great compassion is the third cause. And taking refuge is the foundation for all the vows, and it marks a distinction between becoming a Buddhist and a non-Buddhist. So in its essence, refuge is a state of mind. And the mind has the capacity to take refuge in three ways: small, middling, and great. So taking refuge is both a causal and resultant aspect. Causal aspect is to rely on these three rare sublimes in their outer aspect, being the teacher, teaching, and community, while the resultant refuge is these three jewels in their inner aspect, the clarity, luminous, innate knowledge in your own mind. So that's we're saying here, you rely upon the nature that you have to become a Buddha, the true cessations that you can actually produce, and in terms of the Sangha, the community of your good qualities. So you become this inner, you actualize the refuge state. So we become the teacher, we possess the teachings, and these teachings are the community of our own good qualities. And we really want to share these with others. The objects of our refuge as the three rare survivals, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And when we take refuge in them, we vow to hold these refuge objects as our supreme refuge. There are many benefits of taking refuge. I just want to repeat again what Khyentse Rinpoche said, which was that when we take refuge during a refuge ceremony, we take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, right? The three rare sublimes. Not in a particular Buddhist lineage and not in a particular Buddhist teacher. It's the three rare sublimes, that's our refuge. And when we do that, we take it with the understanding that from this day onwards, until I die, this will be my refuge. And Rinpoche said that when we take refuge, don't think that now we're safe. It's like, no, now the work begins. But now we're going to make ourselves safe. And refuge brings about this state of safety. But today we're going to basically look at two sets of questions and answers. One is 12 questions from a small group discussions and 4 questions in the sample assessment. So some of you might see these if you've got the larger books or even online. These things up there. So today we've already answered them all, but we're going to go through again, just briefly cover it. Material I've relied upon are these 3 books. I think probably the really easiest one there is the Lam Rim. It's really good. Everything is condensed into it, and you've got a really small, you've got a good quote in there and a good summary. So 1 page for each lesson. After that, of course, I think then Steps on the Path to Enlightenment down the bottom is very easy to read, and the rest, of course, they're all very, very good. So we've been taking refuge since we were born. It just hasn't been in the three recent moments. So the objects of refuge, the common objects of refuge for ourselves and most other ordinary sentient beings, human beings, are things like this: your family, your parents, your family, a pet, your home, your country, your society, entertainment and culture. I'll take refuge to that often. Doctors, health professionals and exercise, food, alcohol, sex and drugs, religion and philosophy, job, hobby, sport, politics and power, and of course, wealth. So this is where we've been seeking, if you will, refuge or protection. We think if we have these sort of things here, we're doing really well, and I probably think you are, in a way. So we look here for security. But these objects here are ultimately unreliable because they are temporary and external to us. So these objects are, or many of them are external to us, aren't they? So in other words, if they go, our refuge is gone. We don't have a refuge. And so these objects are all that we call objects for a temporary refuge. They're useful, they're helpful, there's no doubt about it. Without this, we're in a lot of trouble. But it can't provide us the long-term refuge that we're seeking, which is basically freedom from suffering. It can provide it temporarily, but not ultimately. So the security that we're seeking, which is to last, basically comes from the transformation of the mind, not by relying on these temporary conditions. So the analogy they often use, they say that relying on worldly things for ultimate safety is like building a beautiful sandcastle to protect you from the ocean's tide. Right? So the sandcastle is built on the beach, looks fantastic. And it's great while the tide is out, but then the tide comes in and the castle collapses. It's the same with these things. You go along, you find your parents will die. Your family over time, well, they will die. They scatter. You get separated from our spouses, our pets pass away, they get sick. Homes are burnt down, countries changing, America's changing rapidly at the moment. It doesn't seem to be a place where not a lot of people can be happy. Societies rapidly change. So everything we used to put our reliance upon these phenomena, they're not going to provide you with a long-term lasting refuge. They're temporary. If you can accept that, that's okay.
And also when you lose your health, it can be so overwhelming that you can't think of any other refuge.
No, that's right. This is true. So, which leads us into another phenomenon called the four pairs of mundane concern, which is actually our default refuge. So this includes all of these phenomena here, but it's a particular attitude we have towards them. So in other words, we have attachment to having these phenomena, but aversion to losing them or being separated from them. And this is called the 8 worldly concerns, but they're all based around aversion and attachment. And this is basically them. So we are delightful, we feel delighted when our parents are alive, we're in their company, everything's going smoothly, and so forth. And if our family and our friends and our brothers and sisters, so perhaps they give us presents at Christmas, which is coming up, isn't it? So we're delighted when we get a present from our family or those we hold dear and so forth. But then we become rejected if they don't give us a present, or if we lose the present. So we're always sort of up and down with this sort of thing. And as you can see here, there are just these 4 pairs of mundane concern. So most of people's lives are spent around these four pairs. But as you can see, it's a very up and down life, isn't it? You know, it's probably the life we're probably quite familiar with. Sometimes it's great to be around the family, and we get what we want. We receive praise and approval. You know, the sights and the sounds and smells are all nice and good. We get gifts and so forth. But there are other times it switches around and these things don't happen. And so our mind changes. So is there anything interesting that you find in these? So I just want to have a little pause between each of these things. So is there anything interesting you find about this? The ordinary refuge of the 8 mundane concerns, or the way that you can have attachment and aversion to these phenomena? This will just call ordinary life, isn't it?
Well, I just had to go to the dentist, and that's one of those sensations that's not pleasant. And so, yeah, you can overestimate the unpleasantness of the sensation because, you know, the drill's so loud and all that kind of thing. Which is why I didn't go to the dentist for a very long time. Not a good idea, though.
No, it's funny thing, because the thing that we are averse to here is actually leading to long-term happiness, isn't it? Because we do need good teeth, we want them to last. We're averse to having the short-term problems that come with that to get something decent.
And then you leave it too long.
Yeah, so this is why the 8 world concerns can actually sort of lead you down the garden path, can't they? Thinking short-term benefit, and yes, then you lose the long-term benefit. So, in summary, basically, ordinary people seek refuge in unreliable external things that are subject to change. Ordinarily, people are under the control of those 8 mundane concerns. You know, people basically want to receive money and possessions. They want to receive praise and approval. They feel it's true, you feel good, you like it. But then they overestimate it, and so they become attached to it, and then when it's lost, then the flip side comes the anger, the aversion, the pain, and that sort of thing. So this actually is a way of showing us where you can search for a reliable, stable source of the Buddhists would call peace, where the mind is not agitated. So we won't be able to find it in the 8 mundane concerns or in these other objects for refuge. Like I said, it's not the phenomena like the family and the money and all that that's the problem. It's really attachment and the aversion. That's the problem. Having a family could be, pleasant or unpleasant. But that really depends upon the mind. And the mind doesn't have to go up and down, just acknowledge it. Okay, so other sense of sort of up and down that we can experience ordinarily, which we call suffering. Buddhists ask us to look at this in their normal day-to-day life and their concerns and sort of think about it further to the moment of death. Think, okay, then when I pass away from this life, as my mind goes up and down, right? So you go, so I've got a rebirth, it's going to be up or down. So if the mind is habituated to non-virtue, then we should have a wise concern for future suffering. But when it comes to these the refuge objects, we can have a confident trust that we don't actually have to experience the suffering. Just sort of looking at finding out what causes something, and you can see the effect from the cause and go, okay, I know what the effect, and then don't do the cause. So we have to sort of prevent our attachment arising. We need to prevent our aversion arising towards these objects, thereby creating suffering for ourselves. And then the idea of confident, trust, and reliable path means it can be done. In other words, you can stop causing yourself problems. That's what it's saying.
teaching.
It is Sandy. Yeah, it's quite, like I say, it's quite straightforward and simple, but it holds momentous implications.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's nice you say that, because I think if you can say this simply to yourself, because that's all we're trying to do, just work out what causes suffering, then don't do it. You also realise I've done it before, so I have on my mental continuum a predisposition. So I've got to stop that too. Yeah, it's like the idea behind smoking, when they realise, smoking causes cancer. So you can do, okay, so there's a cause, we need to stop doing that. So we know that, but then if you're a smoker, it's hard to stop, isn't it?
So you just try and have a better diet.
Yeah, so it is.
Feel like
Hatred, anger, aversion is very easy to identify, but the flip side, like we're saying, attachment, that's not so easy. So it requires quite a lot of insight in the way. So when we clearly see the danger, the danger is the effect, we clearly see the effect of our behaviours, then we become fearful of that. Yet, we should have confidence that we have an escape route from the danger. So that route is like taking refuge. So again, it's not like so much, although we start off with an external object, the real object is in here, isn't it? Because we have to stop doing what is unskillful. No one else can, others can't make us do that. Yeah. So one time Holly was saying, we have so many rules and laws to stop people behaving in unskillful ways. In fact, at this place I'm living now, there's always, you hop in the lift and there's all these rules. Do not do this, do not do that. You hop out, you walk out in the hallway, there's another list of rules. Stop, don't do this, it's come to our attention. People have done this and that. They really go, yeah, even when people know what they shouldn't do, they go and do it anyway. That's good. First I was just complaining about all these notices being put up. I was just saying, what's because people don't know how to behave? They've got to be taught again and again and again. And they still don't do it. And honestly, I know that's me. I'm like that. If we check ourselves, we're like, we're the same. Right? So it's not, even though it is correct, it is a big deal. It's not all that easy to do, but if we could do it, it is a big deal, Sandy. Like I said, the results are a big deal. Now, as Mahayana practitioners, of course, there are three causes for refuge. First is the same to the wise concern for future suffering, confident and trust that you can avoid it. Third one is compassion. In fact, this compassion, we've been extending that in the first two as well. So here I've got this, then I'll put three types. In other words, there's three types of faith or confidence. There's three types of compassion that you can apply here. So yes, when we take refuge, in the beginning, it's primarily for ourselves. We have to start there. Like, I've got to protect myself. I've got to know how to do that and so forth. But then as you go along, you'll see that actually, like I'm saying, all beings are in the same boat. So the compassion needs to be extended out a little bit further than just for oneself. Which leads us to the capacity of the refuge seeker. So as I said before, first is those of small scope. They're seeking a good rebirth and happiness in cyclic existence. The way that's often accomplished is, like I said, stop engaging in the 10 unskillful behaviors. In other words, stop taking the lives of other living beings. Stop stealing. Stop engaging in sexual misconduct. Stop harsh speech, idle speech, divisive lying, all these sort of things. It's just stop that. It's like the saying said, it's getting rid of the cause, right? Because if you do those things, they're going to cause more problems for you. And we sort of said, no, I don't need more problems, so I want to stop that. In fact, I want to have a better life. I even do the opposite of those. I just stop. but stop killing what try and protect life. Sort of stop stealing, yes, but then be generous too. From the middle scope, like I said, this is one where you want to complete liberation from cyclic existence, attain nirvana. And lastly, of course, those of great scope. And they seek freedom from the sufferings of cyclic existence and the solitary peace of nirvana. So the middle scope, they're seeking the solitary peace of nirvana. Once you achieve liberation from cyclic existence, that is dependent upon this solitary peace. The solitary peace is a cessation of some cause of suffering. So they're not there anymore. So you abide in a peaceful state. So over time, your motivation for refuge deepens from self-concern to universal compassion. Yes, you'll see that in the track of that. When we go for refuge, going for refuge means to trust an institution, method, or person to help you through a crisis and deliver you to a more favorable outcome. So the crisis we find ourselves in is samsara, this idea that's going to keep on going, right? Our sufferings are not going to come to the end of our death. They're going to, if the causes are there, it's going to continue. So if we look at this, so I really like what His Holiness says, where he often says, the wise practitioner, where you begin is asking yourself first, can suffering actually be overcome? Because if it can't be, what's the point of taking refuge in a method that said you can overcome it? That's the most important thing to work out yourself, is about, does this make sense to me that suffering can actually be stopped? But it depends upon these causes to produce this effect. If it makes sense to you, then and here, this is the Four Noble Truths, isn't it? So you look at suffering, it's an effect, must have causes. Yes, I agree with that. The happiness I'm seeking is also seen as an effect. So it's the freedom I'm seeking must also have causes. Like, how does this thing sort of work together? I know on one side, I've got suffering and its causes. On the other side, I've got freedom or liberation and its causes. But does this meeting together make sense? Because in the Four Noble Truths, the Buddha says, this is the suffering we're undergoing, and this is what causes it. He says, this is the freedom I found, and this is what brought it about. If you read that story, after he achieved the state of freedom, he was really concerned about, whether I can even pass this on to other people. Will they understand what I've discovered? And he thought, no one will understand this. But he was convinced to actually share it, and ever since then, people have been practicing. Yeah, so for us, like I said, it's the main concern here is suffering and its causes and how to put an end to it and help others do the same. If through your reading and study the presentation makes sense, then I think you should take refuge. This makes sense to me. This is what I want to do. When we come to that sort of conclusion and decide to take refuge as a vow, it's quite simple. It looks like this. We say this. There's a refuge master, the preceptor, who's going to grant you the refuge vow. They'll say, okay, now you are a Buddhist. You've decided to become one. This is what you need to do. And this is the vow you sort of say. It's often in Tibetan. As you can see, it says, Venerable, please pay attention to me. From now until the end of my life, I, named, say your name, take refuge in the Buddha, the supreme among human beings. I take refuge in the Dharma, the supreme abandonment of craving. I take refuge in the Sangha, the supreme assembly. Venerable, please care for me as a Buddhist who takes refuge in precepts. We say that 3 times, and now you're a Buddhist. Then what happens after that, they now ask you, now would you like to take these other vows to approach, called the vows approaching virtue? And that's where they're asking, would you like to take the vow that says, I will abandon taking life. I will abandon stealing. I will abandon sexual misconduct. I will abandon lying and intoxicants. And those sort of thing, thinking about take which ones you want. But this is the vow. So once you say this 3 times, now you're a Buddhist, basically. And the pledge is that you accept the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha as the safest direction to go to be free from the sufferings and obscurations. Yeah, so what's the direction most people go to free themselves from suffering in the evening? Yeah, or the fruit. It's usually both. You go to the fruit, then you go to the TV, take refuge. So, it doesn't really show our suffering, doesn't it? It makes a difference. But like I said, it's only temporary. So refuge begins. So this is our pledge. Then refuge begins. So who are we taking refuge in? Well, that is the Buddha as the teacher, the Dharma as scripture and realization, and the Sangha, the community of Aryas. So this is the causal refuge, the outer objects of refuge. We're going to depend upon these 3 to actually develop our inner sources of refuge. So we already have an inner source of refuge, the Buddha, what we call Buddha nature. The same nature that the person was called the Buddha, the nature is the mind, the empty nature of the mind. That's it, we've got it already. That is our inner refuge. Scripture, our inner refuge in relationship to the causal refuge is the true paths and the true cessations. In other words, what reasoning do we use? What ideas have we used? What have we realized inside? That depends on scripture, scripture, the text, teacher, and so forth. There's a present moment. We have ideas that protect ourselves now, don't we? All of us do, and we use them. So that's your inner refuge, your ideas. The books, the Dharma, the person, they're the external person, you're sharing them, right? If we adopt them and they work for us, there's our inner Dharma. The causal outer refuge, of course, is the monks and nuns and our teachers and so forth that share their ideas with us and how to practice with us. But in terms of the resultant refuge, that's all of the good qualities, our kindness, our patience, our ability to be compassionate. That is the community of good realization that we have within us. So that's always with us too. This is the causal refuge is like we're relying on an expert guide, their map, and their travel companions to help you reach a destination you've never been to before. So if you were just overseas recently, it just worked like this, isn't it? We needed, Geshe Zopa was the main person, but then there's some other guides that supported us.
Yeah, you need all 3. You can't skip any of those.
Okay, so let's do our first meditation. So we know that as we navigate life, we meet different challenges. So in this meditation, we're going to explore these challenges not sort of as a lost passenger, but as a captain of our own vessel. So we just find a posture that's nice and stable, and put yourself at ease. And let your breath be an anchor. And let your awareness of the breath ground you in the vast sea of this present moment. So refresh your motivation, because we want this practice to be an altruistic one. I think by doing this, may be of benefit to others also. So when you feel lost, do you clutch at the life jackets that float by, or do you reach for the compass within? So the path of refuge is an active commitment to build a reliable inner shelter. It's not a passive hope for rescue. So without building a reliable inner shelter, then we remain adrift. We mistake temporary comforts for a true, unsinkable vessel. So the journey of refuge transforms every challenge into a timber for your ship. Every struggle becomes a plank that you can use on the deck, and every obstacle a rope to secure the sails of your vessel. So why are the storms of life and the struggles we face seen as the very materials for building our refuge? These struggles are the curriculum that teach us resilience. How does viewing ourselves as both an apprentice and a future captain on the ship of life change our approach to our own mistakes? Well, it reframes mistakes not as failures, but as sort of essential lessons in craftsmanship. These are the necessary practice of an apprentice shipwright to learn to build a worthy vessel. So what timbers from a recent challenge can you consciously use to strengthen the inner vessel of refuge today? Perhaps a moment of impatience can become the timber for patience. If you think of yourself as an apprentice shipwright, then every piece of wood, shape, and skill contributes to the strength of your vessel. So today, just try and see one difficulty, not as a barrier, but as the raw material for your own inner refuge, your own inner harbour. But the ultimate refuge is not some sort of distant port that you're sailing towards. It's this vessel you construct, and it's the captain you become. So we're constructing a future life for ourselves in this very moment, in this life we're living. And we are going to become the captains of that vessel. So you've got to create a good, stable vessel. Future lives, for liberation and for enlightenment. I think this is what you want to do. And then breathing in through your nostrils. Exhale. Just let your eyes start open. So just recently, we had a great master come to Australia and to Chen Music Institute, and he gave teachings there. One of the things he said was, and you just, he said, and you just take refuge using the, I think he used 4 points. He said something about how you go for refuge. So I listened, and I thought, oh, that's just what we did in our class. But the way he's framed it was a little bit different. So what he really meant was, how do you go for refuge? He says, well, you look at your refuge objects And you have to know the good qualities of those objects and what distinguishes them one from the other. Then, once you know that, then you can commit yourselves to those objects of refuge. And when you do, you're going to make promises, and those promises should not be abandoned. Know the good qualities of your refuge objects, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Know what distinguishes one from the other. How do you commit yourself to taking refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha? Once you've done this, don't go to other objects to take refuge in them. But these are your refuge objects. You can take refuge in the other objects temporarily. But these ones you never let go of. Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, you go, no, I'm not letting go of that. But I can see it's useful to behave like this or take a teaching from here or there, this sort of thing. As you've seen, His Holiness has gone into mosques and churches, but he's a Buddhist. And this is what he's saying, temporarily, yes. Ultimately.
Or you can still go to the doctor, but you don't stop doing medicine Buddha practice as well.
This is first, we learn why the Buddha is a perfect teacher, the Dharma is a true path, and the Sangha are reliable friends. Then we understand the unique roles. Like I said, the outer Dharma, outer teacher lessons, they need to lead you inwards. That's how you take that, come in, then go back out again. It's like choosing a doctor. You learn their qualifications, you understand the treatment plan, you commit to their care, and you stop seeking other cures for that specific illness. Yeah, qualities, distinction, commitment, refusal. So, Buddha jewel, what's a Buddha jewel? How's it defined? This might take a little bit of time for you if you wanted to memorize this. So I often say it in like 3 sentences. The Buddha jewel is an ultimate object of refuge. So Buddha jewel is an ultimate object of refuge. It has 8 excellent qualities, such as uncreated and so forth. So uncreated is one of these excellent qualities, and this is what a Buddha jewel is. So you can say uncreated means unconditioned, not created by causes and conditions like everything else we experience. So this is referring, of course, to the ultimate nature of the Buddha, the truth body. So when you see these words like uncreated, you're like, okay, we're going off our words ultimate truth. And so when you, I don't know, some of you have read the story of the Buddha. So one of the things that happened after he became enlightened, and I think it might have even happened before he was thinking about it. So he was thinking about, okay, if there is the conditioned, could there be the unconditioned? If something is created, could there be the uncreated? And so he said, I have found something that is uncreated, unconditioned. But where he found that was within the conditioned, within the created. There's the conditioned and the created. They're the conventional phenomena of the world. But when you look into them deeply, you say that they are uncreated or unconditioned, meaning they're not created by an intrinsic cause. That will go way off now. So causes and conditions exist conventionally, but not ultimately. So creation does not exist ultimately. So that's why it says uncreated. So when you get through that word un, or the negative, all it's saying is it has no intrinsic nature. Its nature is dependent. Its nature is always conventional, has no ultimate nature. So ultimately it's uncreated. Conventionally, created. These things exist conventionally, they don't exist ultimately. So the Buddha's ultimate nature is timeless and unchanging, like our own. Like our own. We have the same nature. Whatever the nature the Buddha has, we have the same. It's like I say, you don't have to create it.
Would it be correct to say you have to sort of uncover it.
Yeah,
Become
that's right.
aware of it.
That's more like it. Yeah, you discover it. Yeah, you discover. Yeah, it's an undoing. And what are we undoing? Ignorance. That's what we're undoing.
Because the Buddha also discovered it when he
Yeah,
became
that's right.
enlightened too,
Yeah,
so
this
he
is-
went through a process.
Yeah, and he said, this is what every Buddha, anybody who's become enlightened has discovered this. It's just the nature of our own mind. They discover it's uncreated. Its deepest nature is uncreated. Meaning it has no ultimate existence. Its creation is not ultimately existence, in other words. So the Buddha jewel itself, when you look at, what do we say, the characteristics of it? With qualities, distinctions, characteristics. So the Buddha jewel, what's the big deal about Buddha? He's enlightened. That's it. That's distinctive. The major characteristic of an enlightened being is their enlightenment. What do? They give teachings. That's what a Buddha does. So if you think, okay, I aim to become a Buddha, well, that's what you'll be doing. But the lovely thing about it is you don't have to think about it. It's just a spontaneous, effortless thing. Here, it gives verbal teachings for humans to understand. He becomes an object of devotion, so we make our offerings when we have food and food. And here's a really important one, the role model we emulate. It's like saying, it's like if there's only one doctor about, and we knew we needed more, we probably, you could rationally think, well, how did you do it? Like, I guess I'll need to learn to become a doctor because we definitely need more doctors here. So you learn. Same with the Buddha, we go, well, what did you do? And he told all his disciples, they wrote it down. They've been doing it for a couple of thousand years, so give it a shot. Recollection basically means you to recollect their different qualities they have. And in terms of the merit, here the merit is to one person, the Buddha. When we offer it to the Buddha, it's one Buddha, or you could say all the Buddhas, because one Buddha encompasses all the Buddhas. But when we take refuge in the Buddha, we accept him as the ideal teacher of refuge. In fact, there's a lovely, it's a sort of a poem, and it says, I prostrate to the perfect Buddha, the best of all teachers, who taught that whatever dependently arises is without cessation, without production, and so forth. But it's something like the best of all teachers. And if you think about this, for me at least, it took me like 40, I was about 40, 42 when I was at the centre, when I first came. And this teaching of dependent arising, man, that's something else. It's just like, that's right. Who ever taught that?
Blew away all the doubts of the garbage.
And suddenly it's like, now everything works. But because before that, it didn't work at all, that was my big question all the time. Like trying to work out how does this work? It doesn't make sense. But dependent arising, now it makes sense. That's different. So yeah, ideal. And then refuse the other systems. Yeah, so one time I went to a book reading, and it was about psychology. And so this guy presents all this material, and it's like, wow, it's like, holy heck, this is a big deal. And the guy that invited him was the head of the science department and so forth, but said, if I'm not changing my mind, even though we've got all this evidence to show that what I've built my scientific career on is not actually real, I'm not changing my mind. Okay. So I think sometimes they say they just have to wait till they die. That's how the changes take place. But there's a lot of people like that, eh? So yeah, so I thought, well, so I refuse to accept the idea that what's it? Psychologists? What's it? They're called realists. They're called physicalists. Materialism. Yeah, you just go. Yeah, an idea is why it should be abandoned now. It's gone past its use by date. It was useful, was an idea, and it doesn't actually meet up with reality. Yes, I refuse those teachers or those philosophical systems that contradict dependent arising.
Also remember one of the nuns saying that we don't have to go to fortune tellers to find out what's going to happen to us, because if we take refuge, we know what's going to happen to us. Like,
Yeah, it's cause and effect, isn't it?
Yeah.
Need... Okay, so with the Dharma jewel, it is a truth of complete purification in the continuum of an Arya that is endowed with any of the 8 qualities, such as inconceivable. So in other words, what they're saying is this person, called an Arya, is seeing the nature of reality. That's why they call it Arya. They've entered the path of seeing reality directly. It's made a big difference to their mental continuum. And now they see things, this mental continuum is quite different. In fact, it's called inconceivable, what it understands.
is that saying that the truth, it's not just truth out there as a concrete thing, but it's truth that's known by somebody?
Yeah, so it's not, yeah, it's not like I said, the truth is out there, like X-Files, I can crack up laughing at that, eh? Yeah, no, there's no truth out there like that. Yeah, so what this person has discovered a truth that, there's 2 different types of truth, right? So conventional truths are what they call deceptive truth. And there's ultimate truth that's actually true. So the old Arya has discovered what's actually true. And this is what we can do. We've already got truths that only appear to be true, but they're quite useful. We work with them all the time. But they're not, they're not an ultimate truth. These guys have discovered something else, and men and women have discovered something else that we can too. And this discovery goes right across the board. It's the same for them and for us and for the Buddha. And what it's sort of saying is, if you think about this in ordinary terms, sometimes it can be that you have a wrong idea, but that you think it's true. You don't know it's wrong. But then when you discover it's wrong, you never readopt it. Like for instance, if you thought, and this has happened a number of times, where the woman, so it's happened a number of times that people have been raised by a woman who they have called mother, and everybody else has told them, this woman is your mother. And they've been raised by them, and they believe the woman to be their mother. But say 30 years, 40 years go by, and then something else happens, maybe it's a discovery of DNA or somebody else's. Actually, this woman's not your mother, she's the sister of your mother. Right? And you go, oh, well, after you know she's the sister, you never have the idea again, this is my birth mother. You go, no, this is the woman who raised me and so forth, and I call mother, but she's not my actual birth mother. And so I don't relate to her as my birth mother, but I do relate to her as the woman who raised me and cared for me and so forth. So you can look at her as mother like that, but not as mother who gave birth to me. And you might have, so you wouldn't, once you understand, oh, this is not the woman who gave birth to me, you wouldn't adopt the thought knowing that, oh, this is the woman who gave birth to me, would you?
It's gone.
It's gone. Yeah, no, this is not the woman who gave birth to me, it's the sister, mate, who I thought was my aunt. So this idea about dropping an idea and never readopting it, this is what we call like a cessation. Something is gone. An idea is gone. And it doesn't come back again. You don't think 10 years later, oh, this woman did give birth to me. Is that like that? So here, this is the idea, this term is cessationist, which means an absence of something. This the absence of the idea, the woman's my mother. We get the absence of the idea that phenomena truly exist, or so forth, exists falsely, these sort of things. The idea is not going to come up. In fact, they said when you first enter the path of seeing, 80 wrong ideas just fall over and are not going to get back up. Yeah.
Yeah, but they'll go back to believing it. That's the thing.
There was oftentimes these moments of crisis where there's nothing to replace it. In the Dharma, of course, we've got lots of things to replace it. We've got love, compassion, all these great. So remember, the wisdom just shows us what's not there. That's what this. Wisdom of emptiness cannot refute what does exist. It doesn't do that, and it can't do it. It only refutes what does not exist. It's just telling you this phenomenon does not exist. If it does exist, wisdom can't refute it. Yeah, so this, the Dharma came out of the Buddha's enlightenment, but it's interesting, you can ask questions about this because the enlightenment depends upon Dharma. So Dharma can become a cause, but then Dharma can also become an effect, which is passed by the Buddha. So the major thing about Dharma, of course, is let's stop hurting ourselves and others. So abandon suffering and its causes. And develop the means to abandon suffering and its causes. Bring about a cessation so that you stop suffering. Yeah. So you should, gosh, I'm going to say this for online. So focus online. So one of our students is just talking about actually applying the Dharma and finding that when she resisted the urge to sort of compete in the argument or engage in it, it just fell away. Yeah, that's what we mean by cessation. If you don't engage, it can't take place. So this idea of like generate the true paths. So you can say generate a path or generate a true path. True paths they bring about these actual cessations, they're the wisdom stuff. Other paths are with method. So this is what he like with the method go, oh, just be patient, just wait. You know, realize what you're doing. It works. But it's temporary, because you're going to have to do it again. You have to do it again.
Yay!
You got one success, you're going to build another, another, and another. With the wisdom, no, it wipes out the cause of it. And so you don't need to keep doing that. But before that, it's very good to use the common paths. It does bring good results, and that's what we've got to remember. And if you remember that, then it really helps you practice. And finally, the field of merit is us. We are the ones that gather all the merit from this. Whenever we practice, we benefit. Now, the Sangha Jewel here is an Arya person, meaning a person who's realized emptiness, entered the path of seeing. A person who's entered the path of seeing, and having done so, possesses in their mind stream any of the 8 qualities of knowledge and liberation. So you know something, and that knowledge has stopped something. It's brought something to an end. Like a great little story there too, right? That like you know something and you applied it, and the argument just sort of fell away. It doesn't have any legs to run on. There's a start with the Dharma, like it should be a, what is it? Lama says it's a path of happiness leading to greater happiness. Or he says it's a path of less suffering leading to greater happiness. You just cause less problems for yourself and other people. And so, you do that based on your knowledge, and then you find that this state of freedom arises. Sangha Jewel, these qualities, correct practice through personal instruction. And the lovely thing about what Sue did, and you guys will too, is if you apply it, you get an effect, right? You get the result. If it works, you go, wow, this works. I just got to keep, I can do this again. It'll work again, and it will work again. Yes, if I get instruction and then apply it. And of course, to take joy in practicing the teachings. So I noticed this the other day, I was up at CI, and there's a Dharma person there. He must be a monk. 40 years now, easily. And he's Westerner. And I was watching him talk to another monk, and I go, you can see this guy's made spiritual progress. He's actually sort of happy. I mean, that's what should be happening, right? We shouldn't be suffering more yet if we take refuge. You see, if you're a Dharma person, actually got robes, and you've been a Dharma practitioner for 40 years, something should have changed, right? If you're a good person now, the mental qualities are different than what they used to be. And so this is this idea to take joy in it. Even though it's not easy to do, as I said before, sometimes we forget. It's a joyous thing to decrease your own suffering, increase your own happiness, and suddenly be able to be a different person to others.
So if you find yourself getting more cynical or cranky, then what would you say to someone like that?
What sort of Dharma are you practicing? This must be a modern Dharma.
I've heard Geshe over talk about modern Dharma.
Okay. No, well, you can use that phrase. So the person, if you're, we call out, we don't be ordained Sangha, but we are trying to develop these good qualities. Again, always, like this is a part of happiness leading to happiness. So why not be enthusiastic about it? That's what keeps you going, your enthusiasm. Of being the support, meaning here that you are the support for, to recollect that the Sangha have these qualities and they are supporting us in our spiritual journey. So worshipping the Buddha or the Sangha creates more merit than worshipping the Dharma because people can appreciate and receive assistance. So if we had a text here, we made an offering to the text and made an offering to the person, the merit to the person would be greater than it is to the text, in other words. Again, so what's the first benefit you remember of becoming a Buddhist? That's right. Well, yeah, you are a Buddhist, right? Immediately you're an inner person, the person relying mainly on the inner qualities that you presently have and those ones you want to develop. It makes you a Buddhist, an inner being. And then you have the foundation for the vows, isn't it? You're able to quickly pacify past karmas, you eliminate them, and you quickly accumulate vast merit. These are the ones I always feel, you don't go to the lower realms. You'll tell me that one. No miserable realms. People and sentient beings and non-sentient beings find it very, very difficult, if it's possible, to harm you. You accomplish everything you want and you achieve Buddhahood. So these are the 8 benefits of refuge according to the oral tradition. There are other traditions where they also have a series of 8. The refuge will change ordinary life, and it's a relief. My great relief was at long last knowing how things exist. Right? But then the next question goes, now what do I do? How do I know how phenomena exist? Right? So you also, that'll come to you. Otherwise, someone will tell you, but it might come to you. It's more powerful if it comes to you through thinking it through. But one of the things that will happen is that you know what to no longer, you know what to stop doing. That's huge. It's like you're saying, Sandy, so simple, eh? Like causes produce effects. You look at the effect. I don't want that. You have to let go of the cause.
It's like if you have an allergy and you find out finally what you're allergic to, then you go, great, now I know, just avoid that. I won't get sick.
That's it. Yeah. 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 And you know what medicines to take or what now to change it. You know what you have to drop something most times, isn't it? And you have to change something. Like your diet has to change, or your medicines have to change, or the place where you're living has to change.
Or your prayers have
To change. Yeah, that's right. Some change has to take place there. Yeah. And then, of course, through this whole thing is always a process of mind taming. And the only person that can do it is us. Right? You have to decide you want to do this. And it's lovely was that the taming is not of a harsh nature. That's the lovely thing. It's not aggressive. It's not
subjugated.
It's not subjugated. No, it's like the main thing is clear seeing. If you clearly see how the mind works, then the thing goes, then if I think this, it produces this. Is this good or bad? If it's bad, then stop thinking. Stop the thinking that produces that. If it's good, keep it up. Yes, some of this sort of a new relationship. And the person I'm with really is not very skilled at this. She doesn't actually know what creates suffering. So they do it. I'm going, oh, geez, stop. Don't talk like that. Don't talk like that. You know? Yeah, so you got to sort of, we have to do it ourselves, don't we? And like a parent, a good parent will say to their children, don't do this because there's bad things will happen. Do this so that they don't, and do this so the good things happen. So we have to sort of be like Lama Zopa often says, treat yourself as if you're the guru disciplining the disciple.
That's nice.
So, so you don't. So here's, or like I said, become your own therapist. That's what we're doing. Become a mother to your own childish mind. So we've got to work on ourselves.
So in a way, we've just got to stop throwing tantrums. Like, when you just want to lash out and blame everybody. It's like short-term relief, long-term disaster.
Yeah, so one of the things that happened to me a long time ago was just what you're saying, Sandy, right? So when okay, so here's the suffering, and here's what I think the cause is that true? Yeah, so I looked at it, I thought, that's not true. This is an example I gave about taking out the rubbish one time. If you came and told me to take out the rubbish, right? I got cranky about it. So I think, okay, even if he's telling me to go put out the rubbish, cause of my suffering. Like this is the effect, I think of the effect. I think, okay, here's the effect. He said, go and put out the rubbish. Is that the cause of my suffering? That's the effect, but is it related to the cause? Then go, well, it can't be the substantial cause, but she'd have to turn into my suffering. So she hasn't. So it can't be the major cause. That's impossible. So, okay, some other cause. What is the other cause? Because if I can find it, then I can abandon it. And then I won't get the effect of my present suffering. That's what I was thinking. So now I'm lying on the bed thinking, what is it? What is the past cause, right? And it's hard, man. I lose my brain full of brain. And I sort of stop. And then the answer comes, You don't like being told what to do. That's as simple as that. I don't want to be told to do things. And I thought that's so simple, but so is it true though? You know, and I think back, yeah, I don't like being told what to do. If people tell me what to do, I get, now I can see, I look back on my life, I've got lots of times my father and mother, people tell me what to do, I go and do the opposite, or I don't do what they tell me to do. Wow, it's not like you've been told what to do. So years later, I read in the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, where he says, in the prevention of what I wish for, and in the doing of what I do not want, suffering arises and consumes me. That is, the suffering, his hatred arises and consumes me. And I went, Jesus, that's what happens. That's exactly what happens. So I thought, so how to stop it? What do I do? And I thought the answer came was like, simple. You do the opposite. Instead of hating to put out rubbish, enjoy it. Say yes. Instead of saying no. So after that, every time she'd say things to me to do that I didn't particularly like, I'd have to go, yes. Say yes straight away, and then just go and do it. So I never let the dislike and the aversion come up. And I think it got better, didn't it? Whenever I remembered, it was good. Whenever I forgot, it was bad.
I'm just thinking, so how come then you're happy for the Buddha to tell you what to do?
Buddha doesn't tell me what to do. That's me.
Oh,
Oh, I know. You mean through texts and teachers and before? Yeah, I don't know. I just sometimes it's okay, sometimes it's
it's
not.
like monkeys, like, hey Buddha, you don't.
I was going to say, it's like the other thing I found out about humans. We're not we're not consistent. And like the others said, humans not consistent, not rational, and not competent. So I just remember that about me and others. It's like if that is the way we are, what's the point of getting upset? It's just the nature of people, isn't it? And we can change that. We can become more competent, more consistent, and more rational. So it's not like it's written up in stone. We're this way.
So funny because I really like being told what to do because I'm like, finally, now I know what to do.
Yeah,
Just
I know.
tell me.
I've been other people like this too. Just tell them. They're good. Yeah, so just like 8 worldly concerns, isn't it? This person likes it, this person doesn't. So it has no real intrinsic nature at all. It's a dependent. Okay, so when we've gone for refuge, we have this deep confidence in these objects of refuge. So again, you have to keep checking. It's often the case, sometimes when we get into the Dharma, there's an instruction to see your teacher to be like a Buddha. And then it moves from to see your teacher as the Buddha. Well, that's going to take some thinking about. You can't just it doesn't work to just think, okay, well, that's the instruction, I'll do it. Of course you can, you've been told what to do, this is what we do. But over time, sometimes things get so gnarly, you're going to need more than that. You're going to have to look at this with reasoning and go, how do you do that when they behave like this? So just having this conference was great. Which led us to, remember Lama used to say Westerners should understand that taking refuge is a state of mind. It's quite right. So here, this leads us into resultant refuge. This innate potential of your own mind called Buddha nature. That's always with us. Every object is empty of intrinsic nature. Contrary to the beliefs in intrinsic nature, because there's certainly that belief that does exist, right? Going back 2,000 years. So I was looking at this recently and discovered the great differences between Western ideas of mind and Eastern ideas of mind. So the Western ideas of mind comes out of Aristotle, Plato, They come up with the idea that phenomena have an essence, an essential nature. The Buddhists come up with a complete opposite. The phenomena have no essence or nature. And so here we are, like a long time later, we've been taught phenomena have intrinsic nature, essences. Most of science has been built on it. Like I said, Buddhists come along and refute that, investigate where, how does it exist. If it did exist, this is what would happen. Shoot it down. Western philosophers have also discovered a lack of intrinsic nature. It's not just a Buddhist thing. Now it's moving over to the West, and not only that, the physicists have found lack of intrinsic nature. So even scientifically and philosophically, the West has moved that way. This is the potential of our own mind, the empty, open nature. Again, so this mind can develop these true paths and true sensations, being ways of thinking that are correct and in line with reality. And these ways of thinking, by having that way, you cannot have the other way. Like, you know, if there's two phenomena like love and hate, and one is reasonable and one is not, then if you apply the reasonable one to the other one, the weaker one's going to fall over. So hatred will fall over, and kindness, love, and that stand up. And you go like, why? You look at the reasons for them. And that's a much better way of approaching things, right? So these true paths and true sensations. And of course, the Sangha, the good qualities of mind, I mentioned before. So we become the refuge of it, we become the enlightened being. And this is the whole goal of Buddhist practice, right? When we explain it to others, you can see here the Christian presentation that we passed up last week. Of God, Christ, saints and angels, in the Dharma, we have this Dharmakaya, which is the empty nature of an enlightened being's mind. That's our actual refuge. We don't have it now, but we can have it, because we've got the empty nature of our present mind. It's there already. So here, what I want to try and put out is like show you how the similarities between the two. The major difference, of course, is the idea of an intrinsic nature on the side of Christianity, and on the Buddhist side, no intrinsic nature. This is why His Holiness is often said to great Christian people, don't go near emptiness. Yes. You leave emptiness alone, right? You just stick with where you are, which is intrinsic nature. This is a completely opposite. Yeah, if a person took up the Buddhist path, you'd lose your whole thing in God. It just doesn't stand up anymore. Anyway, this is how you can relate to others. Just relate on the method side. Yeah, kindness, compassion, that sort of thing. Okay, we'll just move on. So let that one go. So we do have access to the answers of these discussions. To both of them. All the answers are in that thing there. If you ever wanted to do the examination papers, you know where the answers are. Afflictions to perfections.
Yeah, next week is afflictions to perfections, but this Saturday is the rebirth game of liberation. So if you're coming to that, please let me know, because Eddie's going to be cooking this dinner.
I'm your servant.
He's been told what to do.
That's
and
right.
He's happily embraced it.
That's right.
So yeah, it's the full game. So it means someone will become enlightened, and it's really inspiring when that happens.
Yeah,
so,
you get a complete overview of the whole path and everything. It's nice. It's a sort of shared experience. We go through it slowly. Okay, so thank you all for being here. Let's dedicate our energy and aspirations towards this goal. So due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the Supreme Jewel, body teacher, not yet born, arise at dawn. May that born have no decline but increase forevermore. And as long as space remains, as long as thinking beings remain, may I too remain to dispel the sorrows of the world. And for His Holiness's long life, the wish granted, wish fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world, to the incomparably kind His and Getzel Abhasich. May all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. And finally, for the finding of Rinpoche's authentic rebirth. In holding and spreading the Buddha's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice, we wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged, incomparable and good to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eddie. Thank you everyone for coming.